I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of us start our journey for a reason we don't even realize. And I think until you can figure out what your true reason is, and your subconscious reasons, you can kind of merge those together. I don't think you're going to be able to stay on the right game plan, right? Build the right game plan and then stay on that game plan to actually achieve the success that you think that you want.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
This is going to be a fun episode with really cool, different, and unique perspective, one that you don't always get when you listen to entrepreneur podcasts, startup podcasts. They often talk about the success and what you learned along the way to success. Here, we're meeting with Ryon Hays, who has worked really hard and not seen the success he's looking for yet. He's here looking for advice today and has some really cool learnings from failing that he's going to share with us as well. So Ryon and I met at BYU, Idaho. Ryon, you want to tell a brief story about that?
Oh my gosh. So I was going to college way back in the days, like 2012, I think. And Stuart was a guest instructor because they didn't have anybody that taught SEO or digital marketing on campus. And he had a little SEO business at the time. I think he was mostly working with dentists, was like his prime customer back in the day. Yeah. And so they brought him in, and I was in the first class he ever taught on campus.
This was now 13 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been now.
Yeah. It's been a long time. And I watched him grow this amazing business and company, and I have just beat my head against the wall over and over again. I've lost everything 3-4 times. I mean, it's been bad, man. It's been rough. So I signed up for digital marketing class, and it was by Stu and Meta. And I was like, wait a second, Stu? And I was looking, and I was like, Stuart? Like, what? So I reached out to you and I was like, dude, we need to reconnect. Like, this is too funny. Like, I started with you, and then 12 years later, I'm going back to you. Like, come on, there's a theme here. So,
yeah, and I think you've probably learned a ton along the way in digital marketing from just being in the trenches of entrepreneur life, but there may be some good formal education in addition to what you've received so far that would be of help. And by the way, like my offer to you today is we'll cover the cost of your student access. Happy to help there, Ryon. But thank you for being with me today and reconnecting. It's awesome to be able to reconnect and hear your story and see where we can help. Did you go on to get an MBA after your undergrad?
No. This will be my first, this postgraduate program is basically an MBA. It's a 1-year digital marketing course.
Yes.
So that'll be my first one.
Fantastic. So I would venture to bet that a lot of your learnings in starting and trying to grow your own businesses will, one, make, if you do go get an MBA, that much more powerful because you're going to come with a lot of additional perspective you didn't have before. But two, I think you'll go, oh my gosh, I paid the price of an MBA and have learned so many things from the streets that I don't even need this anymore, but I need to find a win, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk first, before we get into the wins. Tell us your backstory. What did you go try first out of college, then second, then third?
Oh my gosh,
you said you've lost everything.
Yes.
Okay. Give us some background.
All right. So I've got a crazy story. I've worked in almost 400 cities across 3 continents. I've worked across 18 different industries. I've owned 13 companies to date. I've lost all of them. Lost my home 3 times. My wife got in an auto accident when we were married for 4.5 years, right as my immune system was crashing, and I lost our construction company. And we had an Amway business at the time, so I did MLM. Learned a lot there. That was really exciting. Lost that. Rebuilt everything out in Salt Lake City, and lost all that to COVID and a motorcycle accident. And then moved down to Texas with a girl, built a nonprofit down there, and had a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on down there, fighting corruption and family law and collecting evidence against corrupt lawyers and judges and helping families get through the law system, and that was amazing. Very rewarding work. I was a licensed mediator and negotiator at the courts down there. And then that all went kaput. Moved back into Nashville at age 34 with nothing to show for my time and money. Lost everything for the third time down there in Texas. And at 34, I was crawling into my grandma's house with my tail tucked between my legs, man. No family, no career, no money, I was expected to be a millionaire by 30. I've been putting in 100-hour weeks my entire life, working a business and a job or two businesses at the same time, or full-time with one business. And there was nothing more depressing and more crushing than being 34, showing back up at grandma's door with like $50 in my pocket, and $30,000 in debt. And the very first day I was in town, I went to the Ninja Warrior gym to do a little workout, and I stepped on the warp wall and I shattered both my legs. 6 bones, 23 pieces of cartilage. So I just lost everything for the third time, and now I can't walk. I hadn't even unpacked my truck yet. And I spent 6 months in bed. I didn't have any insurance because I just moved there. I didn't have any money to go to the doctor. So I just laid in bed for 6 months, let my legs heal. I went to the doc once. We had a family friend that was a doc. He took some x-rays. He was like, if we do surgery, you're going to lose, 80% mobility guaranteed. Everything seems like it's kind of in the right spot. So you can just let it heal and see what happens. So I just laid in bed for 6 months. And then I did 9 months of physical therapy. And a little over a year later, I was up and running and jumping and skipping. And I've got probably 95% mobility back.
Wow.
But I still, now I'm 36. And last year, I had a friend. I was helping him rebuild his company, and I thought we'd kind of worked out terms where I was going to help him rebuild his company, and he was going to let me be a partner in his company. Spent 2 years there at a greatly reduced salary. Told him I wanted to help him do operations and management. Hired and fired half his staff. I got him a whole new technology stack for his IT company. Increased all his security and antivirus and all these things. And it saved his company probably 3 times from hackers that would have come in and just destroyed his clients, and he would have lost his whole business. And after all of that, he hired somebody else to do his operations, and it just felt like a stab in the back. Yeah. And right when that happened, my little brother killed himself. And then my girlfriend, turns out that I was living with at the time, my partner, she was cheating on me with her ex the whole time. And so I lost everything for a 4th time at the end of last year.
Ryan, oh my gosh, man.
And so I am rebuilding from scratch for the 4th time in 7 years. All of this happened in about 7-8 years.
Holy crap, man. Well, I really appreciate you being open and sharing all of this hard. First off, God bless your grandma for bringing you back into her home and being cool about helping you out in that regard. Also, you've smiled on this episode already.
Oh yeah,
and
that's the way you get through it, man.
That makes me so proud of you, man. Because so many people, when they get to where they've been through what you've been through, they lower their hands. They stop the fight and they say, "I'm done." And so thank you for being brave enough to come on this show with me and say all of that.
Yeah.
And if you're listening today, I hope you can first admire and respect a man that has been knocked down so hard so many times and is like, okay, I'm teachable now. I'm ready to learn. I want the advice. If I can be on a show where someone's going to talk to me and help me, like I'll share the gore. I'll share what I've been through.
Whatever you
want. What's awesome is that the biggest struggles, the hardest things become the greatest stories later.
Mm-hmm.
And the triumph that can come from being where you've been and getting to where you need to go is going to be so worth it, man.
I know it.
And
that's the only thing.
I'm really sorry you've had to go through it. I cannot imagine going through the things you're describing you've been through. So many things I haven't had to go through that, lessons that God needed to teach you along the way. Like, wow, oh my goodness, I can't imagine what that's been like. But you're 36 and your story's not over.
Nope.
And your entrepreneur journey, it may be over for a while, right? But your long-term career and life story definitely is not. And your entrepreneur journey may start back up later. But before we leave your entrepreneur story, talk about your transition. We will talk about your transition into corporate life and how that's going to look and what that should look like. But first, you mentioned a lot of hard things. Yeah. Tell me a story from the mediator life and why that went to kaput.
Okay. So the mediator life. So down in Texas, being a mediator is actually interesting. As a mediator, your job is to try and stop cases from going to court because judges have too many cases, right? And there's only so many judges. They only have so much time. And so what you can do is you can go down to court, you can get a mediation license. It's like an online class you can take. It's like $250, to $400, depending on where you go. Super easy. Sign up to be a mediator, and then you just go down to court and register, and they put you on this little docket, and they just take turns. And so when your turn comes up, they hand you a case. And if you're very successful at closing cases, then you start to build a name and a reputation for yourself. And then you can start networking with lawyers and judges, and then they'll start sending you more cases. Then you can start taking on private cases. When you take on the private cases, you can actually charge money for them. And you can make $1,500 to $2,000 a day for an 8-hour negotiation, settling a case. So it's really good money. But when you first start out, you pretty much have to do all of it for free. And it usually takes you between 1 to 3 months of working for free to kind of build a name for yourself if you're good, before you can switch over to start charging money for it. But down there, the reason why that fell apart is because my ex-fiance at the time, we were building this nonprofit together. I was running a roofing company to pay for everything, to pay for our house. And she had two daughters, so they're going to be my future daughter-in-laws. They were 7 and 8, and we were homeschooling them. I would cook them breakfast every morning, and then I'd go sweat on a roof for 12, 14 hours a day in Houston in the hot sun. It was 127 degrees on top of those roofs where I was working. And
that's from off the asphalt. That's how hot it gets, right?
Asphalt
there.
Or metal roof, or it was anywhere from 120. The heat index on the roofs is anywhere from 127 to 160 during the summer.
That is brutal.
So I was going through gallons of water while I was working on those roofs, but it was the only work I had. I had a background in construction, and one of her friends had a roofing company where they sold roofing, and whenever they needed repairs done, I basically said, hey, I can do those for you, if you're having a hard time with it, because it's hard to find a good contractor, somebody you can trust to go out and do repairs, especially where nobody can check it, because nobody's going to climb up on the roof and see if you actually did it right. You're just going to get a lawsuit 2 years later because there's water in the house.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, so you're doing this roofing business,
right?
Pay the bills while you're working with your fiance that also has a couple of kids on the mediator business.
Here's where it falls apart. She had told me that she had 50-50 custody of her kids. And when Christmas came, she decided she wanted to keep the kids. She told me her ex owed her like 6 months of visitation time because he had kept them for like the last 2 years while she was in Utah, where I was dating her before we moved to Texas. And all of a sudden, cops started showing up at the door. They wanted the kids back. And I'm like, oh, this is a little awkward. And she was like, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, he owes me visitation time, and the cops can't do anything because cops can only intervene in legal matters, not civil matters, which I didn't know. So the cops can politely ask for the kids, but they can't enter the home and take the kids because it's a civil matter. And so I'm like, this is awkward. So we put up, dark blind curtains all over the house, so nobody could tell if we were home or not if the lights were on. And we just pretended we were never home. And we kept both the cars in the garage, and the cops would come like once a week. And then her ex started showing up once a week. And I was like, after 2 months of this, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, can I see a copy of your court order? And she was like, oh, I can't find it right now. And she kept giving me excuses as to why she couldn't find it. And then finally, one day she was down at the court and I was at home with the kids, and her ex came by, and I stepped out and talked to him. And I'm like, hey man, like, let me hear your side of the story. Like, what's actually going on here? And it turns out she only had visitation rights, and she was holding the kids unlawfully. She was supposed to have given the kids back. And she was fighting with her lawyer to try and get an injunction with the judge and do all these different things. But she had been lying to me the whole time. And, I wasn't okay with that. And so I talked to her about it afterward. And she got mad at me because I spoke with her ex and I didn't trust her and whatever. And she tried to throw it back on me. And I was like, no, you've been telling me a lie for the last 2 years. And I've been helping you hold these kids, from the dad who has the legal rights to have them, and there was a bunch of other things going on in the relationship. And I told her that crossed the line with me.
Yeah. So the relationship ended up, the outside relationship away from the business side, all of a sudden snowballs into something that's much bigger and has an impact on the business, right?
And because the nonprofit was built around her and her name, because she spent 5 years fighting her ex in court for her kids. And she's the reason why we were fighting custody, battles for families and corruption in family law. The whole business was around her name. And so when her name, got burned, in my opinion, I wasn't going to be staying with her. So I left. And when I decided to leave, she actually grabbed the kids, went to her friend who had just had a child and was in postpartum depression, and they stole $50,000 out of her husband's bank account, and they disappeared together. They kidnapped the kids and they left the state. So it was her friend, a 7 to 8 year old girl, and a newborn, like 3-month-old girl. And they all jumped in a car with $50,000 they stole, and they left the state. And her ex shows up and is like, hey, where'd they go? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. They just jumped in the car and left while I was working on a roof. I came home and they were gone. And so I'm like, so now she's really burned her name because she kidnapped the kids. And now he's filing, an order with the judge for a kidnapping and to try and get the FBI involved. But they have to be missing for so many days before they can do that. And they have to have evidence that it was a kidnapping. And so 2-3 weeks go by and she's just gone. She's got $50,000 cash and a 2-week lead. And they didn't find her for 7 months. They found her outside Washington, D.C. 7 months later. And they threw her in a federal prison and got the kids back to the dad.
Wow.
But it was just insane. And so because she burned her name and the nonprofit was attached to her, all my contacts and her network, I just didn't feel like I could, salvage anything there. And so I threw all my stuff in a storage unit and moved back home to Nashville with my tail tucked between my legs, thinking I had a family, thinking I had a fiance and 2 future daughter-in-laws, and it was all gone, man. And then I broke both my legs, and I just sat there at my grandma's house, depressed for 6 months. Not able to walk. What do you do?
Dude, that's a lot to go through, right? He's laughing now. He's laughing now.
Miserable, man. Miserable.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, so the lesson for entrepreneurs here, I think I've brought this up a lot of times in other conversations with folks. Who you marry.
Huge.
Who you partner with.
Huge.
Who you stay close to in your family. All of those things can have a very deep impact on your ability to succeed or fail in a business.
Huge.
Because as much as you can say, hey, don't bring your personal life into your business, it's impossible not to.
When you're an entrepreneur, your business is your personal life because
it's 24/7, right? You don't leave work.
You don't. Yeah. You don't get to leave it at home, or leave it at work and come home to the family. You don't. I think an important lesson I learned is, why, and it's a question every entrepreneur needs to ask themselves, why are you getting into entrepreneurship? I didn't ask myself that question at first. I had this I want to be a millionaire by 30. I want to do all these things. I want to have freedom. I want to be able to spend my time the way I want to spend my time. And so, I knew I needed to get a business to get ahead so I could do that. But the real reason I started a business, and I didn't figure it out until later, was because when I was in high school, I didn't break 100 pounds till my senior year of high school. And I had all these masculinity issues. I was on all these varsity teams, because I was an extreme athlete. And, I could do 200 pull-ups. I could do 7 sets of 30 pull-ups back to back. I was big into rock climbing, soccer, frisbee, all that stuff, like volleyball. I was a captain on 2 varsity teams my freshman and sophomore year. But my junior year, like my body wasn't growing and I couldn't keep up. Everybody else got big and I didn't. And all of a sudden I was on the bench my junior year, and senior year I couldn't even compete, because they were 3 times my size. All the guys were huge. And I was so mad at myself, and I felt like I was a failure as a man, and it really, and I already had low self-confidence from some other issues that I was going through. And it trashed me, and I needed to find a way to have confidence in myself and confidence that I could provide for myself and a family, and that I could actually be a man. And so, one summer I happened to be doing remodel work for my uncle, doing construction. I wanted to learn a manly skill set. So I did construction with him, and then I just fell in love with it. And so I ended up doing construction because I needed to fix my confidence as a man, and having that manly skill set and gaining that confidence in myself was huge. And so for me, my entrepreneurship journey started because I needed confidence in myself, and I needed to save my masculine identity. But unfortunately, I thought it was because I wanted to make $1 million. But because the reason why I was doing it and the reason why my mind thought I was doing it didn't match up, I never found a lot of success, because I wasn't pushing myself to make that $1 million, because I was satisfied because I felt like my confidence and my masculine identity were being saved. And so it never, like, I had this subconscious division as to what my goals were, and I didn't realize it. Yeah. And because of that, I kind of ping pong between the two. I get mad at myself for not making enough money, but yet I felt satisfied. So I didn't really drive myself to make more money because I had fulfilled the need that I originally started for. And I didn't realize I was doing it, And so I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of us start our journey for a reason we don't even realize. And I think until you can figure out what your true reason is, and your subconscious reasons, and you can kind of merge those together, I don't think you're going to be able to stay on the right game plan, right? Build the right game plan and then stay on that game plan to actually achieve the success that you think that you want. And so that was a very important lesson for me. So I am very confident, in who I am now. I don't have financial success. And looking back on all my failings, I'm like, you know what? I still feel successful as an entrepreneur because I got what I needed out of it. I can walk into any situation and I'm 100% confident I can tackle that situation and come out successful. But I don't have the financial, prestige. And so when my friends and family look at me, they're like, oh yeah, he was an unsuccessful entrepreneur. And so that kind of hurts, because I know I can do it, right? My construction company in Utah, when I rebuilt everything from scratch, I did $1 million in revenue my third year in business. I built that from scratch by myself. Yeah. And 95% of entrepreneurs never hit $1 million in revenue in a single year, right? Now I lost all of it to COVID.
There you go, folks. Listen to this. So
I lost all of it to COVID and a motorcycle accident, but I know I can do it, and I've done it. But I've continually invested in the wrong people, and I've invested in the wrong relationships, and I wasn't investing for, that future monetary gain. I was always investing in I wanted confidence. And knowing that I hit that 95% mark that most entrepreneurs never hit, I felt successful. That was my goal.
Absolutely. You were successful in some regards, right? Like that is a win. That you are right. Most businesses never hit $1 million in annual sales. So congratulations for that. And it is good proof for you that you can do this. And with the right people around you, Ryan, I am entirely confident that you can still go and have a big financial success win if that's what's next for you and that's what you want in life. But I want to take a second and share a couple things that I glean from your story. I mentioned earlier that you've gotten an MBA from these different businesses you've started and had to close. I told a young nephew of mine that was interested in entrepreneurship. I said, look, you can go and just start working for the man and work 3 years and then go get an MBA and then go get a job and eventually be at a place where you can make $100,000 to $200,000 a year and you can make that the rest of your life. Okay. Or you can take your skills, start a business, and that business may not make you very much money.
Right.
And you may have to close that business someday. But if it makes enough money that you can live off of it, then the things you're going to learn for it will be tuition, just like an MBA would be. And then you're going to come on to new ideas. You're going to have new opportunities, new network, new friends and family that you can, maybe not so much family, although people do get married, right? So new family as well. You'll go into a next business, and that business can be bigger, and you'll have new things you learn that you can put into that one. And it may not go big and succeed. If you do a third one, you may go into it going, I've learned from 2 other businesses what I know I don't want to do and what doesn't work. And I'm going to try this in this next one. And I'm going to have a bigger network and more friends and family that know me and can help me.
Yep.
And I'm more likely to succeed again. And that may fail. And you may be now, you may have gone from 23, 24 years old to 32 years old. And you may still go into a fourth one. But now what your mind's ability to comprehend as possible for yourself, what your network brings around to help you, to build the right people around you, that all has changed yet again. Frank Vandersloot is a multi-billionaire in net worth in the state of Idaho. And he was corporate turned entrepreneur and did not get started until in his 30s.
Yep.
Okay. And so there are a lot of people whose entrepreneur success story does not start until their late 30s, Ryan. And so you've learned a lot. You could still go learn more. I think most importantly, you've proven to yourself, I know how to do this and I know how to grow a business. What I haven't figured out is how to get the right people around me.
Exactly.
To help it go to the next level.
Exactly.
And frankly, having the wrong people around me is my real reason that I have not been able to succeed like I could and should have. Mm-hmm. And so building the right team is so critical. Kevin Plank, founder of Under Armour, said that it gets lonely as an entrepreneur, so build a world-class team. You don't build a multi-billion-dollar business by yourself. You simply don't do it. You start one by yourself, and it's lonely, but you only get to have one someday that you started where you're on the cover of GQ and you're on the cover of Entrepreneur and you're on the cover of Inc. magazine. That only happens if you built the right team around you to make you look that good.
Yep.
Okay. And so, I hope you'll find your way back to entrepreneurship because I think you do have what it takes, and you got to get the right people around you. And
entrepreneurship is always the end goal for me.
Cool. I love it. But in the meantime, you got to pay bills right now and get out of grandma's house and come back from a deep hole of having to take care of yourself with broken legs and all that.
I pretty much took the last 2 years off just getting everything fixed, man, between the legs and the mental health and, recovering emotionally. It's been a lot. That's been a lot.
So one of the reasons you reached out to me was, hey, Stu, I need some advice. I've struggled with entrepreneurship. I need to get a job. I saw that you've got all the Stu Kent stuff going, and it made me decide to reach back out. That was awesome, and I enjoyed that interaction. But tell me, what's been the struggle in transitioning from entrepreneurship to a corporate job and getting hired?
Man, the big corporations, they seem to think that because I was an entrepreneur, that I'll get bored and I'll leave. Mm-hmm. And so with every big company I've ever interviewed with, I always make it past the first interview. Sometimes I make it past the second interview, but I never even get invited to a third interview. And finally, I had a good relationship with one of the hiring managers at a company. And I was like, what was it? I've had this happen 24 times now in the last year, mm-hmm. where I've been trying to get a position at one of these bigger companies because I wanted to learn how big business works from the big business side, right? if I don't know what the end game is supposed to look like, with big business, if I want to have $1 billion company, like I figure working for one's a good way to figure it out, but I can never get into one. It's like this, secret boys club. And she was like, well, the reason they want to hire you is because you're an entrepreneur and they're afraid you're going to get bored and you're going to leave. And I was like, that's it. She's like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, so now I feel like, man, do I just got to rewrite my whole resume and just be like a director of sales, like a regional sales manager, but then if they ask for my contact, who was your supervising manager? I feel like, he no longer works there. I don't have his contact info. Like, what do I do? It's like a I don't know. I've got these amazing skills, but nobody will hire me.
Deceiving is never the answer. So don't do that.
I know.
I know you know better than to do that. So that's not what you're going to do. You're like, well, how do I overcome this?
I just go to these interviews and you have to have this positive mindset, knowing that 9 out of 10 are going to completely shut you out because you're an entrepreneur, and it's just like, it's so hard to be positive. And if you go with a negative mindset, you're not going to get the job because they don't want to hire you because they can tell you have this negative mindset. And it's just like,
yeah. So I think that you have some really cool experience. Before the episode today, Ryan, you were sharing your meetup story and how you used that as a platform to generate leads. Quickly share that growth marketing experience that you have.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of guerrilla marketing. I wanted to build a life coaching business and I wanted to test my material. And so what I did is I went out to the public libraries and I found out that I could rent spaces there for free. So I get these really nice classrooms that could fit 30 people. And you just check it out for free. And then I go on to meetup.com and I would put in events for free and be like, every Thursday, life coaching, free life coaching, please show up if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, addiction, whatever problems you're having. And people would start showing up. I had like 6 people the first time and then 9 the next time. I got up to 12 was my biggest class I ever had for these free things. But, and I was able to test my material and I was able to test that it worked and people loved it. And they said, one guy was struggling with addiction. He came up to me afterward and he said, dude, I've been going to AA meetings and this other stuff for 14 years. And in the 1-hour class you did here, I learned more than all of those 14 years combined. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, okay. So my material's good. It works. But now I got to figure out how to monetize and get it out there. And when I was wanting to do that, COVID hit and they shut down all the rental spaces and everything. And then I got in that motorcycle accident and my business partner broke his arm and all of our projects got delayed and my whole company blew up. And I was worried about all that stuff and take care of my employees. But I never got back to the life coaching thing.
What I wanted to point out was that you had the outside the box thinking of using Meetup as a platform to get people to come for free and learn from you. And with the idea that you could then convert them into paying customers. The idea in turn didn't work. The business in turn wasn't the right business with the right product market fit. But what it proves is that you have the guerrilla marketing bootstrapper mentality and you know how to go and fill a room. There is power in being able to fill a room. Other entrepreneurs don't know how to do the fill a room part, but they do know how to convert people into paying customers because they have a product that has market fit, right? And I would suggest that you find the right funded entrepreneur that has budget to hire talent that you can charge for your experience and years, a salary and a bonus opportunity in exchange for your skills. And you're going to get to watch this entrepreneur build a good team of people with positivity around them, and they're going to succeed. And you're going to get tired of it because the corporate companies are right. You're going to get bored. You want to build something on your own someday. And that entrepreneur that you helped is either going to keep paying you so much you can't leave it, or you're going to leave it and go start something else. And that will be okay and everyone will win.
Right.
Because you helped them before you left. My suggestion would be go find that type of opportunity.
Okay.
And whatever you don't know how to do yet, you know how to go find a way to learn it and do it well.
I do.
And so that would be my suggestion to you. The entrepreneur, the early stage businesses are going to be much more likely to welcome a former entrepreneur as compared to corporate America.
Right.
So that would be my suggestion for transitioning. It's a good lesson for entrepreneurs. When you start your resume with, I started this business and I started this business, it's a big red flag for corporate America, because they don't want people that want to start businesses. They want people that don't like the insecurity of starting a business. They want someone who wants the secure job, wants the 401k, and wants to stay forever. Well, I've been in the shoes of of looking for those people and seeing that as a red flag.
Yeah.
So because we passed the stage of early stage, but when we were early stage, if you were an entrepreneur in the past, that was like, oh, that's awesome. They want to wear 7 hats because I got 20 for them. Great. Like, let's bring them into the team. Right. So that I would say that, like, I say funded startup, Ryan, because they're not going away overnight, and your job won't go away overnight. Right. And you need a real job right now, right? You need the salary and to go and do this for a while. Right. And hopefully you find that, oh, I actually enjoy this and I can keep doing it. But there's so many lessons that can be learned from Ryan's story here today. I would suggest a couple of fantastic books that people that have been through what Ryan's been through should read. One is Lean Startup.
Lean Startup.
Read the Lean Startup. That book is outstanding. It's by Eric Ries, and he shares tips and tools and tricks to getting started and testing and trying what works before you go and invest a lot and get to a place where you'll have to lose a lot to be able to succeed, or to find out that it will or won't work.
Right.
Another book that I think is outstanding for entrepreneurs that have been in Ryan's shoes is called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. The reason I recommend this book is Peter Thiel points out that there are businesses that need someone else. Oh, there it is. Cool. That's on Ryan's bookshelf. I love seeing that.
I have several of my books over here.
Good. That's great. I love that you're reading and taking time to do that. Don't stop while you're going into the workforce.
I read 200-300 books a year, man.
Whoa, that's a ton of reading. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Audible going nonstop.
If you do too much reading, then it gets hard to take the time to apply some of it. So I don't know.
Maybe, it does. But like if I'm in the car driving somewhere, like I'm always listening to something. You know?
Yeah. Good for you. Audible.com is a great, this episode is not sponsored by them, but Audible is a fantastic tool for continuing to learn and grow and improve. Ryan, I wish you nothing but success. God knows you deserve it, considering all that you've been through to date. And I think that your time's coming, and I'm proud of you for continuing to keep your fists up in the fight. And that you haven't let those down. Keep going, and just know that you mean a lot to this world. The world needs your story, and they need for you to keep telling it and keep building your story into triumph. People get down. People fail. More people fail than succeed as it relates to entrepreneurship. Yeah. The vast majority actually fail. And
I failed.
The lesson that I hope everyone takes away today is that you keep going. And if you keep going, if you don't quit, you haven't failed yet.
Yep.
You've learned.
100%.
You haven't lost, you've learned, and you're getting to the wins that will only come if you keep going. And continuing may mean taking a job as a McDonald's manager and going, oh my gosh, now I've learned this new business. Now I've learned franchising, whatever it may be.
I'm just looking for a mentor at this point. You know, like I beat my head against the wall and I did everything I knew how to do, you know, and I wasn't doing it for the right reasons because I was looking for that confidence. You know, I wasn't looking for the monetary gain. And now I'm at a point in my life where I need the monetary gain. Like, you know, 36, I definitely got to get the finances under control now. And so I just need someone who's good at the finance side, and I need to learn from them.
Well, so many people struggle with something that you don't, and that is the belief that you could go do $1 million in annual sales. The belief that I could be a millionaire when I'm 30. Like, dude, you have that part. That part's hard to teach.
Yeah.
That part's hard to develop if you want to develop that kind of mindset. But you, my friend, have that part. And that is a big secret to most successful people, is they let themselves believe it's possible. And it's still possible for you to go and have wild success
100%.
as an employee, and then as an entrepreneur hiring employees again
100%.
someday. So Ryon, thank you so much for being willing to share your story and to be on this show with me today. I think there will be very few episodes where people can learn more than from your true, authentic self here today with us. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Stuart. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.